Another kind of interesting topic here, maybe not controversial, but definitely interesting, and is oral sex giving you cancer? Which I think that's
Yeah,
kind
that
of
made me giggle.
I think it's kind of humorous stuff, but it's not. It's serious. This is like a real deal, and this has come up in the past few years. And the reason I'm talking about it is there recently was an article by a Dr. Mahana, who is looking into this, and he reported a dramatic increase in oropharyngeal cancer. So that's cancer of the back of the throat and the tonsils. And now the main cause of oropharyngeal cancers is actually human papillomavirus,
That's what I was
HPV.
gonna say.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah, because
HPV.
I was like, that's cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So HPV is the virus that for decades everyone knows, or a lot of people know, causes cervical cancer. And it's one of the things that, is tested for when people get pap smears in their annual exams. And what is happening is through oral sex, the HPV is getting into people's oral cavity. And the thing with HPV, it is it's a sexually transmitted disease, and it's actually extremely common to the point that the CDC says that if you're sexually active, pretty much 100% of people will have HPV in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those viruses that is just almost everywhere.
And men carry it without, they can't even be tested for it, right?
I think you can be tested, but it's not like they don't get annual exams. Like it's a swab test, and there's not many people lining up for that. I don't think.
Yeah.
So
Like guys,
I'm
sure guys are just walking around with it. They don't know because they don't have symptoms like.
So here's the thing:
girls
is that
do.
with HPV, if you get it, a lot of the times your body clears it. And so you can get it. You can get an HPV, and there's a ton of different strains.
Yeah, I got the shot when it first came out.
You
when I was
did?
18.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. We're going to talk about that. So there's a ton of different variations of it, and a lot of them are completely harmless, and your body clears it. And there's some that are more aggressive and that actually can cause cancers, and we know which strains those are, and those are the ones that the vaccine actually targets.
Yeah.
But for a certain percentage of people, they don't clear it, and then it gets into the DNA, and it starts to affect cell replication, and then they go on to get cancer. Always historically with cervical, and now we're seeing an oropharyngeal. And there's some data on it, and the data is that for people who have 6 or more partners in their lifetimes, and this is oral sex partners, the risk of oropharyngeal cancer goes up almost 9 times. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Well, everybody has an excuse now not to do it.
Right. I guess it's a good way to get out of it. It's like, no, I don't want to catch cancer. Thanks. I'm
sorry
good.
about it.
Sorry about your loss. But now, 70% of oropharyngeal cancers are found to be caused by HPV. And oropharyngeal cancer is rising. There's about 55,000 cases per year. Of those, there's about 12,000 deaths per year. Now, oropharyngeal cancer is a disease of older people generally.
Yeah, my grandfather had throat cancer, but he was a tobacco user.
That probably it. I think that now HPV is surpassing that. Based on what this literature is showing. The average age of diagnosis is 64 years old. Only 20% of them are in people less than 55. So just talk a little bit about oropharyngeal cancer and who might be at risk. It is older people, generally. Lifetime risk is greater in men. It's 1 in 60 versus 1 in 140 for women. So this is a disease more of men. Symptoms would be things like throat pain, difficulty swallowing, feeling a lump in the throat, hoarseness, voice change, persistent coughs. So those would be kind of the symptoms that might come along with oropharyngeal cancer. And there actually was like a pretty famous person that got oropharyngeal cancer, and it was blamed on HPV. Do you guys know who it was? No? Charles?
Nah, I'm not familiar.
Michael Douglas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the actor.
Yeah.
He was in the news a couple years ago, and it was almost like, not to make light of it, like people were, they flat out said it was from, I think he said it was from HPV from oral sex, and at the time, nobody was talking about this. Everybody's like, what? Like, what do you, it was just kind of like a weird thing to say, right? Most people say, no, I got cancer. They didn't say I got it from, oral sex or whatever, but apparently he was kind of open about it, or maybe as a publicist, I don't know. But since that time, and that's been a couple or 3 years, this thing has just kept growing and growing and growing. And so, when we talk about these things, not to joke about them, but, to really seriously kind of learn something. It's like, okay, well, now something else I have to worry about. What are the things that you can do to, maybe protect yourself? Right?
Let's hear it.
Well, it's kind of simple stuff. One would be partner
Don't do it.
partner selection, right?
Yes.
I'm sure we have all been in encounters with people that we know maybe are experienced, would be a nice way to say it.
Yes.
And so, this is another thing outside of it is an STD. I guess it's maybe a non-traditional form of an STD, but it's just another thing to think about, because I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, if I'm not having, if I'm having oral sex, then I don't have to worry because it's not, normal sex, right? And so that's kind of maybe the distinction I'm trying to make is that, now, there is definitely STDs that you can get from just oral sex as opposed to, normal sex. And it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
Things like condoms, depending on which way it's going, can be effective. That is an obvious way to prevent STDs. And then you mentioned it, the vaccine.
Yeah.
The HPV vaccine, which, when I was young, that wasn't really a thing. And so that actually is, I'm actually, the recommendation is for people 9 to 45. So I'm actually outside of the age of that. So it's never been something I've ever thought about. But the HPV vaccine is very effective.
Yeah.
It's quite effective at protecting people from HPV. It specifically is targeting the strains that cause the cancer.
Yeah.
And it's pretty well tolerated. So yeah, it's out there. It's something to be aware of. We use it 'cause it's kind of a shocking headline, but it is a real thing, and so people should be aware of it and take precautions. Fun. Yeah.
Have a good weekend. Don't do it.
Yeah, be careful out there this weekend. Don't go to the truck stops
Yeah,
or
you be careful out there.
Okay.
Busting your chops, Travis. Maybe she might still be on the medication from wisdom teeth.
I think that's what it is. Sarah's a little loopy today, guys.
All right, so we just got a little.